Hey guys, it's B. Wiley here, and today I am so excited about today. I have one of my dear friends, Coach Joshua Sigafus. Now, if you've been watching me for a while, you'll know that we have been collabing over the last year since everybody was stuck in the house. I wanted to make sure I collab with people who made sense in what I do, and so I can learn about what they do, and so we can learn together. So, Josh is here with me, and he's going to talk today all about how to attract a high value man, as well as what us ladies need to know about men in order to understand them better and get what we really want. So, Joshua, number one, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very good. It is an excellent Thursday, and this is actually my second podcast meeting with someone in the last 24 hours. Usually, I don't
Oh,
have them close together, so I'm very, very excited. I really love collaborating and talking to
that's
someone
good.
other than myself.
I know that means you're on and popping, and that's what I like to hear about. Now, Joshua, I know how I met you. I met you on Instagram, just connecting with other like-minded coaches, and then I came across you, and you really stuck out. And then from the moment that we started talking, it just worked. We gel. I don't know. It's because we both live in Missouri. I don't know, but it just works out. So for those listeners who don't know who you are, tell us what you do exactly.
Yeah, so I'm a dating coach. I blog on joshuasigafus.com. I also have the YouTube channel and I podcast. And basically my whole purpose and goal is to help men and women create the dating life of their dreams. And I do that through a process of what I call the alpha mentality. Mind your business, get your money, pursue your purpose, and then in so doing, create the dating life of your dreams. And so, I basically help people by creating content, and I help people by doing one-on-one coaching calls. I also have a book that's getting ready to come out in January of 2022,
Oh,
and
good.
I have a whole bunch of stuff in the works. But yeah, for the most part, I write a whole bunch of blog posts and do YouTube and podcasts, and I also have a mastermind tribe where I people can join and
Okay.
get personalized coaching and stuff. So really, the whole game is helping people to achieve the dating life of their dreams. That is my
Okay.
goal.
Nice. And if you guys are watching this, obviously you're watching this. Well, I can't say obviously because some people are listening, some people are watching. If you see me looking down, I'm just going to always take notes because Joshua is my professor and I'm going to take notes in his class. So I know one thing that stood out for me is the alpha mentality. What does that even mean?
So at the base root core fundamental level, the alpha mentality means that you choose to take a proactive role in your life to create
Okay.
the destiny you want rather than reacting to life. And so basically what we're doing when we embrace the alpha mentality is we're going to say, I'm going to choose what my life is going to be. I'm going to take action to make it what I want,
Mhm.
rather than saying, oh, I hope something nice happens. I hope that something good falls in my lap. Instead, we are saying, I'm going to create something good for myself. I'm going to
Okay.
make my life what I want it to be. So that at the core, the core is the whole philosophy. And then it all stems from there.
Okay, so did you always have the alpha mentality? Because since I've
Oh,
met you, you've just been like mind blown. Every time I talk to you, I learn something new. So I want to know, where did this even start? How did this get going with you?
well, for me, this got started when I was young, I did not have the alpha mentality. I was a very much, as I call, like a beta mentality man. I just kind of
Mhm.
like let things happen. I reacted to them. I wasn't taking control of my own life, and
Yeah.
I was stuck in some bad cycles of like negativity, low
Hmm.
self esteem, no confidence, no dating skills at all. And
Okay.
I got married when I was 20 years old, way too
Oh,
young.
wow.
Yeah, and I had no business getting married because I didn't understand the first thing about women or anything about myself, even for that matter. Got married, was married for 10 years, got
Wow.
divorced. Long story short was, it was like a complete kind of a crash course in real life.
Hmm.
And I ended up having to start all over. I left my family home with $600 in my bank account and two carloads of belongings, and I started all over in a little one-bedroom apartment. And I decided, I went through some bad times. I decided, something isn't right, and the common
Hmm.
denominator can't be everything else. There's something
Yep.
I'm not doing right. And so yeah, I spent 6 months in that little apartment, and I reprogrammed myself to have a more alpha mentality. I studied good people, I read good books, listened to good podcasts, basically all kinds of people who knew more than I did. And I not only did I embrace the alpha mentality, but I also learned how to date, learned about women, learned about myself, learned about men. And so that really was the passion, like that fire ignited a passion in me. And that's what led to me starting to help other people too, was once I got it turned around and I started seeing great success, people started to say, Josh, you know, like you seem to really have it down. Like, what do you do? Like and so I started blogging, and then that led to the podcasting and the YouTube. And then that led to coaching. And then it's just been going from there. And I really love it, and I'm passionate about it because I know what it's like to completely fail and how bad that feels. And I want people to have a successful dating life, and so I'm very excited about that. If I can help anyone to make their dating life better, I think that makes their life better, and that makes me very happy.
Good. I love to hear that, because you're passionate and you're educated and you're smart and you're wise. You're a lot of things. I've said this before. I feel like I said this the last time we talked on my glitchy Wi-Fi, that I was like, you can literally be a professor in college and like teach this stuff. So speaking of teaching, who would you say, for those that are listening here, is your ideal client?
My ideal client is a man or a woman who is just, they feel like they can't get their dating life going the way they want to. Maybe they keep getting ghosted, you know, maybe they can't seem to get, you know, someone's attention long term. Maybe they feel like they can't get anyone's attention. Maybe they feel like they have hit or miss relationships, or they feel like they can't find the right person. You know, you might start to think, is it me? Am I just doomed to have a terrible dating life? And the truth is that most of the time we have one or two little problems that are really sabotaging us, and we just have to figure it out. Sometimes it's a little more complicated. Some people have more problems than others. So to them people, I say, you're going to have to book a couple sessions. But like, you know, actually, once people kind of understand the process and then they see where they're going wrong, it's a simple matter of changing your habits and then fixing it. So it's really just people who feel like they're powerless. They don't know how to make a dating life that they like, and they're just tired of all the nonsense.
Okay. What do you say to those who, because with me as a life coach, some people think they can just come in 1 hour, one session, oh, boom, yeah, we're fixed. And I feel like they're working from a scarcity mindset, and they are scared to invest in themselves. Have you had any clients like that come to you and they love everything they hear? However, they are inconsistent, or you just never hear from them again? Have you ever had those kind of clients?
Yeah. And, you know, to be honest, that comes from, you know, that's a marketing challenge, and it's a business challenge, but it's also, it is a scarcity mindset challenge, because one thing that I've noticed is I'll get people who come in and we'll talk, and they're afraid, I think, to face like the truth. You know, they like my content, but then when I say, okay, here's your problem, it's like, and you know, interestingly enough, I have this problem way more with men than I do with women. Is I have men, and it seems like they don't want to believe that what I'm saying is true. If it does, it means they're going to have to change their behavior, which takes work.
Yeah.
And so they'll have a hard time, and they'll balk at that. And you know, I will, you know, put it out there, but people can only fix things as far as they're willing to change their behavior, because that's what it takes. You know, and to be honest, it can happen kind of quickly. Like you say, like they won't come in for one session. It's probably going to need more than that. It's surprising how quickly I can get people's dating life sorted out if they do the work. I've got some clients who do the work, and it's amazing. They have incredible results. Like, it really changes their life. But the people who don't want to do the work, that's hard. Like, you can't expect the same thing, or you can't expect something different if you don't change your behavior, you know, which I had to learn really the hard way. I learned it the hard way by falling right on my face in my life, you know, and I just got to a point where I was like, you know, something has to change. So that's why the alpha mentality is the basis for it all, because until you decide that you're ready to change your own life, you know, by acting on it, nothing else matters.
Yeah. Okay. So the alpha mentality and making the decision. So let's say that someone has a bad pattern, previous pattern of dating. They're trying to change. They're seeing a life coach. However, what they used to like is starting to creep in. What do they do? How do they repel those old ways and habits?
Yeah. So that's a hard thing, but what it is you have to identify the bad habits and then you have to start replacing them with good ones. And that's actually one of the steps that are going to be, it's one of my, I have a 9-step process. And
Okay.
that's one of the steps is embracing powerful life habits.
Okay.
So you're going to have to remove habits that aren't serving you and replace them with
Mm-hmm.
habits that are serving you. And so that's a
Yeah.
life optimization process. And it's actually pretty simple. It's something as, it starts as simply as saying, um, well, and I'll contextualize this by saying I have a saying when I do this, which is we want to be 1% better every day. So you
Okay.
don't have to get it
Okay.
perfect today. You do have to make 1% better changes today. Though. So for example, today I might choose, I'm going to stop drinking a soda with lunch and I'm going to drink a
Mm-hmm.
water instead because I need to get my weight down, or I need to, get a better, healthier body, or I need to stop having those sugar drops that make me less
Mm-hmm.
productive, whatever it is. Oh, and then tomorrow it might be, I'm going to stop double texting, like no more double texting. Or then like the next day it might be something like, I'm going to walk for a half hour instead of playing video
Yeah.
games for a half hour, or whatever it is.
Okay.
So it's just very small. It starts out small and then you build up and eventually you replace many bad habits with many good ones. And all of a sudden your life is turning around. You are taking more control of your life. This includes like many things. Like I said, get your business. I'm sorry, mind your business, get your money, pursue your purpose, level
Mm-hmm.
up mind, body, spirit. And those are kind of the
Yeah.
6 things that I focus on. So once you start working on those things, there's a lot of attraction built into that and you have to work on
Yeah.
them. There's also the dating skills part. And so people have to work on those habits too. That's a skill that they have to learn. So they got to replace some bad habits there. And a lot of people
Yeah.
do have at least one set of really bad habits that are throwing them off,
Mm-hmm.
even if their attraction is high. If you don't have your dating skills lined out, it'll really throw a wrench in it and make it
Yeah.
confusing.
Yeah. One thing, and this probably shouldn't even stick out. I know whoever's listening to be like, this is what she got from that. You said something about double texting because all I
Mhm.
can think about is bad habits. And then the one thing that stood out that shined bright like a diamond was double texting. Why is double texting a bad habit? And what is double texting?
So double texting is when, you send a text to someone you're interested in and they don't reply back right away or, for a little while. So you send them another one. So that's 2
Mhm.
texts. And then even worse, the dreaded triple text where you text them
Oh.
3 times. Now, this is a little different phenomena with men than with women. Men have to be more careful about this than women do, and the reason being is because double texting, the primary danger is that you can look clingy, needy, desperate if you double
Mm-hmm.
text, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
that now women can get away with it a little bit more. They can be a little bit less concerned about that. The reason being is um, because men are looking for different things in women than women are looking for in men. It's important to understand that women primarily, at the end of the day, what attracts them to a man is his effectiveness and the value he
Yeah.
brings to the world. So a needy, clingy, desperate man can only be so effective because he's reliant on her to feel
Yeah.
good for himself, right? So that's a bad sign. That's a low value marker. Now, a woman is a little bit different. The primary thing that a man is looking for in a woman at the end of the day is really fertility/beauty, right? And
Yeah.
so now if she double texts, it doesn't really hurt her beauty cues, and that doesn't
Yeah.
register so much as a red flag. Now if she turns out to be a little bit clingy, if he's not into that, okay, but that's more like breaking a secondary attraction metric, not a primary metric. Whereas for men,
Yeah.
they're breaking a primary metric, sending a primary metric red flag, as
Yeah.
opposed to a woman is more of a secondary. So women can get away with it a lot better than men can. They
Okay.
should still avoid it, but for men, it's a killer.
Okay.
Women smell it up from a mile away.
Okay. Triple text, and that's a whole nother story. I've been a victim, well, not a victim. I've done double texting before, and it's been a long time since I've done that because I've learned my lesson. And so I
Mhm.
don't teach, and then I definitely don't teach my clients to do that. It's like one and done. And I
Mhm.
was just talking to a friend the other day, a guy friend. We talk every day. He's literally like my best guy friend. And it's a young lady that he's talking to. And they were talking that night. And she sent him a text like good night and whatever. And then the
Mhm.
next morning, she texts him again, good morning. I said, wait, she's doing too much. And he was like, no, that just lets me know she wants me and she's into
Mhm.
me. And I said, well, that just lets me know that she's desperate. So, it makes sense. And I don't know if I'm too harsh with that, but I know that when I was double texting, I was desperate, simple and plain. So it makes sense in what you're saying. Now, speaking of desperation, what can you say is the best advice you've ever received as far as dating goes?
So I think the dating advice that actually led to me making meaningful change, the biggest change in my life, had to do with expanding my social circles. So that's another step. But I one time got this advice that was go to 2 things every week that you wouldn't normally go to meet people you wouldn't normally meet. And and then the person giving me this advice, and it wasn't a person in person, it was online, and I think I watched it in a YouTube video, and for the life of me I cannot remember where I watched it, because I would absolutely go back and share it today if I could remember. But this was a long time ago when I was just starting to try to date again after getting divorced. And so they said do this, and then they said, because basically I had Googled something like, how do you get a girlfriend, because I had no idea what I was doing. And then they said, for the most part, follow this, just go out to these things, go do 2 new things a week, get around new people. You've got to expand your social circles. And if you do that consistently, you put yourself out there and you try, usually within 3 to 5 months, you're going to be dating someone. That's what they said. It was just this, very generic advice. And so I was like, okay, fair enough. And I started doing it. And
you have no idea why I'm laughing. I can tell you. I'm going to let you finish and I'll tell you why I'm laughing.
Well,
okay, let me
it just changed my life. That was the best advice I ever got, because expanding your social circles is so crucial. And I was so bad at it. I had to change that bad habit.
Okay. Oh my God. This is why I'm laughing. If you guys have heard any of our previous podcasts or interviews, I say in there on one of them that my last date was December 2018. And to this day, that's still been my last date until I get my next date. And so the thing that I just told myself this, I said, okay, girl, you got to get out of the house. And so I told myself, I said, every weekend, starting literally now, because I'm going to drop my son off for the summer next weekend. And I told myself, I said, every weekend, you're going to go out and go somewhere that you've never been, to make yourself available, make yourself be seen, so you can attract men that want to date you. And then you're saying this, and you said you got it off of a simple Google search. How do I get a girlfriend? It's just so simple. And that's why I'm just like, oh my gosh, that's so funny. So all we have to do is get on the little handy dandy computer. How do I get a boyfriend? That's what you're saying women got to do?
Well, that can help, but be careful who you take advice from, because there are a lot of people who give bad advice. And I had to learn that a little bit the hard way. I was just talking about that the other night in my podcast. Basically I went for 2 years trying to learn how to date, and I learned a lot of good things from a lot of really good people. And I also learned a lot of junk that didn't work. And so I had to sort through it. And so what I try to do for my listeners on my platform is like, okay, I learned this. I took 2 years of my life, and I crashed and burned and was wildly successful, and I had to filter it out. So now I know what works, and I can help give it to you, and I can help you avoid maybe some of the stuff that doesn't work, because there is bad advice out there. There's some really bad advice. And sometimes it's also contextual, it depends on the situation a little bit. However, and knowing the context is important too. I can help people to figure that out, because it's not always so easy to understand what is the right thing now versus what it might be a month from now, in the context of where you're at in the process.
Okay. So summer is coming up, and there's a lot of people that tend to break up right before the summer. So there's going to be a lot of single people out here. For the single ladies that are listening, and they've been having these dry phones and they haven't had a date since 2018, what are you telling them to do other than changing? We know we got to change our surroundings and go to different places. What else can they do on a daily basis to be attracted to attract and be attracted to? What am I trying to say here? To attract, and I want the man to be attracted to them as well. The high value man. What can they do every day, if this is making sense? What can a woman that is single and ready to mingle, what can she do every day in her everyday life in order to prepare herself to attract the man that she desires?
So that's a really good question. And I could give Very long answers to that. But what I'm going to do is so this is actually really good timing because I'm right now literally I'm working on a really good piece for my blog, long form piece where been working on this exact topic.
Oh,
And
wow.
so I can share with you the steps that I'm recommending.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
so the first thing is to understand the mentality of a high value man. Now, a high value man, it's important to understand that this type of man, um, he is not high value for no reason, right? He has
Yeah.
worked hard to achieve his high value status. And when you say high value, I assume you mean a man who has checked off all the primary attraction metrics for men. So he's got
Mm-hmm.
wealth, status, power. He's a leadership mentality person. He's
Yeah.
industrious. He's ambitious.
Mm-hmm.
He's the type of man you can rely on. He's an effective man. He's
Yeah.
responsible. So all these different. Hopefully, he's good looking and romantic. This
Yeah. Yeah.
those are always good things. And so when you say high value man, generally that's what you're talking about, the man at the very top, who's
Mm-hmm.
checking off all those boxes. So now that kind of man is a rare commodity on the dating marketplace, not rare
Oh,
in a
okay.
scarcity mindset sense. However, he's rare in the sense that, you're looking at the upper 10 to 20 percentile of men. So
Okay.
there's a small tip to the pyramid, and the highest value men are up there. Now those men have worked really, really hard to get there. And so they are operating at like a level of sexual abundance that most men are not operating at. In other words,
Right.
they have beautiful women coming out of the woodwork trying to
Yeah.
husband them up, right? Who want to
Right.
wife them. So the challenge is, how do you make yourself stand out as the exceptional woman who is a better option than these other women, right? So
Yeah.
being beautiful obviously is always very helpful. Being young, being displaying all the primary attraction metrics, which are youth, beauty, fidelity, fertility, and agreeableness, are all of the
Okay.
primary female attraction metrics. So displaying those to the highest extent possible is really good. However, beauty alone obviously is not what he wants, because he has options, to date. He could bring
Yeah.
a beautiful woman home every night if he wanted to, a different one.
Right.
So to counteract that novelty, there has to be something really useful that's better than the novelty. And those are the steps that I'm going to talk about here when I'm
Okay.
outlining these. These are the things that women, in my experience, are really struggling to understand about high value men. And I'm going to go, and I'm not going to get super in depth with it, but
Right.
step number one is be sexy. Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, be sexy, because a high value man, he wants beauty and sexiness
Mm-hmm.
and fun in his life. He wants the romance. He wants to have a beautiful woman on his arm. He wants to
Yeah.
look at her and think, oh, she's so beautiful. So focusing on your beauty cues will pay off. Women who don't
Okay.
focus on their beauty cues, they're going to suffer. So what I mean by this is, make sure you stay healthy, make sure you're staying fit,
Yeah.
make sure you're doing your makeup well, do your hair
Mm-hmm.
well, make sure that your clothing choices are good, so be a type of woman who, when she goes out, she really turn heads. That will
Yeah.
help you. Actually, that's the primary thing. If that's missing,
Yeah.
you're going to suffer in everything else when it comes to men, right? So you've got to check that one off. And then number two is be uncomplicated. So the fewer complications you can remove, the better off you're going to be, the more attractive you're going to be. Because one thing high value men do not want is complication, because they don't have to have it, right? They can live
Yeah.
without it. So now some examples of this are, I listed some examples. Now I'm about to go into territory that is a little hard to talk about here. I like to
Okay.
give a heads up. Sometimes there are things that are hard to say that are very true because it's harsh. We live in a harsh and brutal world, but
Yeah.
people need to know the truth. And so
Right.
can be a little bit sensitive. But the examples I give in this article are, this could mean children from previous relationships, baby daddy drama, an out of
Oh,
control
yeah.
family
Mm-hmm.
life, legal or financial problems, even major health problems. These are the types of complications that are going to register on his radar as being like, oh, do I really want to get into this? Now,
Yeah.
obviously, if you have kids, you can't just shove them under the rug and say, well, I'll get rid of that. Well, so what you do if you have complications that are hard to get rid of is you just try to minimize them as much as possible. So with the
Yeah.
kids, like, try to make sure that you have a structured home life and that the kids aren't,
Yep.
like wild and out of control. You have your family under control, and you're making it as uncomplicated as possible. right? So that really helps you.
Yeah.
So, but
Okay.
keeping in mind that complication matters to men. They want uncomplicated relationship.
Okay.
Men at that level can get it. They can get whatever kind of relationship they want. So
Okay.
they want that. And then number 3, be down to earth. Don't
Okay.
think you're better than him. Don't think you're better than everyone. Be, have a healthy sense of self-awareness balanced with pride.
Hmm.
Have self-confidence, but you also want to be able to appreciate other people too, because he wants to be appreciated. And there's a little bit of a trend where women think that they're worth more than men sometimes, and sometimes it's true. They're literally more valuable in the dating marketplace, but a high value man's a bit of a rare commodity, and he knows that. And so if a woman doesn't appreciate that and make sure that he understands that she knows he's valuable and she respects that, then he's just going to overlook her because he doesn't
Yeah.
have to deal with that. He can find a woman who is down to earth. So, again, that's another box you want to check off.
Yeah. So if he is in high value, is he low value? So is there steps? Because there is a pyramid to this. So if he's high value, like you
Yeah.
said, he's up here at the top. Then there medium value,
Yes,
low
absolutely.
value, bottom of the barrel.
Yeah. So
Gotcha.
anything that takes away from his primary attraction metrics is going to reduce his dating marketplace value, which means that he's going to be less, he's going to wield less bargaining power in the dating marketplace, which means that, this is another hard thing to say, and I hate this word a little bit, but he's going to settle for less if he is less a little bit, right? Now, that's not always a bad thing. For example, fewer than 10% of eligible men make 6 figures. Okay.
Yeah.
That is a pretty big number. There's a huge, though, a much, much bigger percentage of men who are making really good money, 50 to 70,000 a year, right? These
Yeah.
types of men can also provide a very good living. They can support a family, especially if they don't live in a major metropolis. They can have a great life. You can have vacations. You can save up for retirement, right? These types of men are not like the 6-figure earners in the sense that they could have any high value woman they want. They are a little bit more restricted because there are women who will not pay attention to them because they're not earning 6 figures. Therefore, those types of men, you are going to have much better odds of attracting them than the 6-figure men, simply because they are a little bit lower value on the dating marketplace, but it doesn't mean they're low value men. They can still be high value men. So everything matters, right? A man who's a little bit chubbier than a man who has a 6-pack, he's going to be a little bit easier now, generally speaking. That's not always true. So a woman, maybe there's a place where a woman wants to pick and choose what matters to her, right?
Yeah.
And if she and attracting a serious top level man is actually a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
Heck yeah, it is.
It is. Yeah. So some women might say, I don't want to do all that work. I don't want to be at the gym 2 hours a day. I want to go for 20 minutes a day.
Right.
Fair enough. I don't blame you. So there's nothing wrong with that. Just, maybe if you're going to not do quite as much work, then understand that it's okay to shoot for a man who's maybe not earning the 6 figures or doesn't have the washboard abs or whatever it is. He can still be a high value man, right?
Yeah.
But so a lot of men and women do this thing where they may be, they're not putting in 10 work, but they want the 10 partner. Right?
Yeah.
So just be self-aware. It's okay. I'm not a 10, I make no bones about that, but I'm trying to get there. Right. So I'm trying to increase. So we always want to be increasing, but we gotta be mindful. And so anyway, I hope that kind of answers the question.
No, that's good. Because a lot of people, that self-awareness thing, a lot of people are not self-aware. And I know that I remember this guy that I went to school with, and I've never been the girl that goes after the best looking guy in the room. It's just if it looks too good, I don't want to be a part of it. I like quirks. I like big ears. I like gap. I like something that is imperfect. That's what I go for. That's just what I like. So, and I always thought in my head, like, dude, this dude is a football player. He's in the gym 24/7. There's no way that I'm going to sit here and just look like Halle Berry 24/7. That's too much work. And honestly, I'm not interested in doing that much work. However, there are a lot of women who are lacking self-awareness, and they think that they deserve, because they're a woman and we can have kids, and they think they deserve a man who is like a 10 to carry them on his back. What do you say about women like that?
I think that's exactly where the self-awareness has to come in. And when I say be down to earth, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Is that it's and I'm saying it for the women because I want them to succeed. So it's really important to understand that men don't, high value men don't think that way. They're thinking, if I'm going to add a woman to my life in a serious way, she must be a complement. She must be an asset, not a
Yep.
liability. She
Mm-hmm.
has to bring more than she costs me. Now,
Yep.
beauty goes a long ways. It's not everything, obviously, because we're
Mm-hmm.
talking about these other things when you get to that level. But the more you can increase, all of these things. And that's why I always encourage people, be 1% better every day. Because if you keep bettering
Yeah.
yourself, you're going to actually be able to attract people who are more attractive than you probably used to think you could attract, or whatever. You can
Yeah.
do it, absolutely. But and that, to be honest, as a man, women also have a bit of an advantage in that as a man, you have to be a little bit better than the woman, right, to
Yeah.
really attract her. Women can attract men who are a little bit better than them in terms of dating marketplace value, because being a woman does carry with it a certain amount of inherent value. Not enough to think you're better than everyone, though, by default, like you're saying. It's
Yeah.
really important to be self-aware. That's so important. So, but be down to earth is that one. And then the next step is now this is a weird one. This is another one that's a little bit hard to talk about because it's a little bit taboo. And when I say it, it sounds a little bit weird, but I'm going to clarify what I mean by it. Be submissive. Now, when I say be submissive, I don't mean that you're not your own person, you're not independent thinker, you're not getting your own money, these types of things. What I mean is a high value man will always make it a requirement. And this is something a lot of women don't know. There's a mystery to a lot of women. He will always make sure that he controls the frame of the relationship, right? A high value man will. Now, men who are not like men who are not in the top echelon in leadership skill, as they go down the line, this will be less important to them because this is a leadership trait. High
Yeah.
value men must develop a leadership trait to achieve a certain level of value. There are men who don't develop that as highly. So that's the metric that matters for that. But if you want a man who's at the very top level, he's the type of man who is in charge of his own destiny and
Yeah.
going to remain to be in charge of it. So if you want to enter his frame, be a serious part of his life, you will have to relinquish control of the frame of the relationship. So in other words, and the higher level this type of man is, the harder it is to do that. Because like, look at Elon Musk.
Mm-hmm.
He's arguably one of the highest value men on the market. He's dating Grimes right now. They have a
Yeah.
baby together. Have you heard, like, he has this huge list of rules that his girlfriends have to follow, like, and they must follow,
Oh.
and it's quite extensive and intensive. It is hard work to be a woman to that kind of man.
Oh
Like
my goodness.
Grimes's whole life revolves around him because
Mm.
he's high value, right? Because he makes all the rules. Now, but he can do it, right? Because he's that top echelon man. And if she doesn't want to be there, there are 10,000 other women who would gladly
Yeah.
take her place, who are just as beautiful, right? But Grimes is exceptional. She's an artist. She's passionate. She's got all these things going for her. So now when I say be submissive, that's all I mean by that, is be understanding of the fact that a high value man will make it a point to always be in control of his own destiny, because that's how he creates his value. And so he won't, for example, he will never take orders from a woman. He would never, if he compromises with a woman, about like rules for the house or something, it's because he wants to. One really good example, that yowling sound in the background is
Is that a cat or a dog?
no, it's a
Okay. Yeah.
cat. Just
Oh,
so you
I'm
know.
getting a cat. I'm getting a cat next month for my birthday. I love that.
The perfect example of this is, there comes a point where a man will be high value enough that he would never move in with a woman. She will have to move in with him, right? Because
Yeah.
to move in with her, he would be relinquishing control of the frame of his life too much. He'd be
Yeah.
moving into her space, and he knows that he can't do that, because that is allowing outside forces to create his destiny. So he creates his destiny. That's why a high value man, for example, would never accept if a woman, it moves in with him and says, hey, I want you to throw your clothes in this hamper. And he doesn't want to
Yeah.
do it. He's going to say, no, 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 you don't make rules like that. I make the rules like that. I control the frame of the relationship. Right. So now, when I say that, now and this is important for women to understand, because what a lot of women do is, and there's a lot of complicated brain science to this, and it involves the masculine and feminine and the attraction metrics between them. But basically what's happening is women will unknowingly, because they have to in real life, maintain an alpha personality to succeed in the
Yeah.
world. They will carry that into their relationships, and then they will create an alpha struggle with the man. And
Yeah.
now the higher value a man is, the less he will tolerate an alpha struggle with a woman, because he just doesn't have to. He has
Right.
options. He's an abundance mentality man. So, so in other words, if a woman's going to create an alpha struggle, what he's going to say is, well, I don't want this. I'm just going to find a woman who won't do this, because there's plenty. So when
Mm-hmm.
I say be submissive, that's what I mean. I definitely still want women to embrace the alpha mentality, mind their business, get their money, pursue their purpose in life. In fact, that's
Yeah.
important. But if you want the real high value man, it's important to understand that as a woman, it will be incumbent upon you to relinquish control of the frame of the relationship. Okay, so that's all I mean by that. So
Okay, so let me ask you this.
Mhm.
So when I think of women being submissive to a man, me personally, I don't believe in doing that unless I'm married, but that's just a whole nother conversation.
Well,
That's just my beliefs.
well, that's fair enough, and maybe so, because until you're married, like that's really when he's giving you the biggest commitment signal. So
Yeah.
you have
Mm-hmm.
very little reason to be too submissive to him until he gives you strong commitment signals, right? You don't want to
Yeah.
just give that away willy-nilly. So for good reason.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So with that in mind, I was thinking here when you were talking, which I already thought about this anyway. I think right now I think this is the generation of desperation, which
Mhm.
what I mean by that is on social media, you see all these women dressed scantily clad and they're showing everything, but yet somehow they're attracting these men with all this money who wants to commit to them and take care of them. And that makes the everyday woman think, well, do I have to do that? Do I have to put sex first? Do I have to show my body off in order to get a man, because there are so few men compared to how many women are single. So the men have the upper hand. So now, as the everyday woman, is she to think, now I have to be submissive to just any guy to have a guy? How
Yeah.
can we stop her from being desperate? How do we put a stop to
Mhm.
it when the women outnumber the men?
Yeah. So the general rule of thumb, and it's a really important thing to understand, is women control access to sex and men control access to relationships, as a general rule.
Oh, that's good,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it's true.
And it is true.
Yeah.
And so there is a conflict of the genders there, and there's the potential for great beneficial teamwork, right? So
Yeah.
hopefully they can work together. So that's the key, is to find a man. Now you do not want to, you definitely do not want to give a man the space in your life to be, uh I always say you do not give a man boyfriend space until he's earned it, right?
Yep.
And the way he earns it is by demonstrating commitment to you. And now
Mhm.
this isn't like necessarily like a process that he goes through to like prove that he cares. This is a process that, as a woman, you are watching him, and basically what you want to do is, this is partner vetting, and you want to make sure that he's not like playing you, make sure that he's not just lying to you. And so women have to be very, very good at figuring out, okay, well, is this guy really into me, or am I just
Yep.
one of his rotation? Um,
Mhm.
and it is incumbent upon a woman, and this is where, for a lot of women, also get a little bit like they get lost in this area, because this is a very difficult area to get right. But when you're dealing with a really high value man, it's incumbent upon a woman to always make the commitment talk, to start the commitment talk, right? that's
Yeah.
that's in her domain, because like it's in his domain to try to compete with other men to gain sexual access with her, right? So
Yeah.
she has to decide if he's worthwhile for that. And then it's he is the one with the, who controls the access to the relationships, because for a high value man, he's in sexual abundance, he could have his pick of beautiful women, therefore he has to give up actually quite a bit to enter into a relationship with a woman. And he would only consider doing so if she was a true complement to his life, right? A really good match, better than all these other women. Men want to pair bond just as much as women do, actually. A lot of women are surprised to hear that, but men and women care about pair bonding equally. But see, what a woman has to do is she has to date him, prove that she is a complement to his life, truly exceptional woman. And then there's a certain period of time where she will date him and let him do whatever he's going to do. But then there's a point where she will draw a line and she will say, I am looking for a serious relationship. I think we could have a serious relationship. I would like to do the commitment thing. I'd like to be exclusive. I want to make agreements. And then see, this is where women have to be strong, because they have to be, if they're going to have that discussion, they need to be confident in their value enough to walk away if he will not commit. Yeah. And
exactly. Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so that, but women, a lot of women are afraid to do that. Right. And that's where they start to go wrong, because once they let him get away with it, why would he commit that? You know,
exactly.
You've demonstrated that he doesn't have to commit to you to have access to you. And then so that's where it goes wrong. Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. Men need, women have to take the stand and say, you know, if you want me, you're going to have to, you know, if you want me to continue to be in your life, we're going to have to move to this more serious level, or I'm going to go find a more serious option.
Yeah. And women are so afraid. They're deathly afraid to, number one, and I just said this in a video recently in one of my videos. I said, women, if you're freshly dating a guy, you're just getting to know each other, the question's going to come up. So what are you looking for? If you're looking for a relationship, if that's what you desire, not necessarily like binoculars out looking, but if that's what you desire, then say it. Don't be afraid to say that that's what you want, because if you don't, that guy is then going to say, well, I'm not looking for a relationship. In my experience anyway, they always say they're never looking. I'm not looking, and I'm just going with the flow. And next thing you know, you're with this go with the flow Joe. And where are you going? Nowhere fast.
It's in his best interest to do that with many women, you know, to go with the flow with many women, because that's sexual novelty. He gets to date different women, you know. Okay, so great, that's great for him. But women have the ability to change that, and they don't have to get stuck in that. But you're right.
Yeah.
Many of them are afraid of it, and they're afraid of putting it out there and making it known. You know, but I think it's important for women to understand, though, that if a guy isn't interested in them enough to commit when that time comes, then they're not losing anything by walking away, because you know, because if you're not exceptional enough in his view, either you're just not what he's looking for, or he's not ready to settle down, or whatever, and none of those things help you, right? So and then if you continue with him, what you do is you waste time, and you keep other high value men from wanting to get involved with you, because that fits into that complicated part. And so for women, the greatest threat is time wasting. You don't want to waste your time on the wrong man. It's a massive threat, because women have the disadvantage in some senses of they're on a bit of a clock, right? If a woman wants to have a family, she kind of has to get it sorted out. Men can dilly-dally until their 50s, you know, but women don't have that luxury. So keep that in mind too. Men don't have to hurry it, you know, so it's not in their best interest to hurry into a relationship. So it's like I said, it's a conflict of the genders, but there's the capacity, when you find the right person and you do it right, for great beneficial cooperation. And that's where good relationships come from.
Okay. Now, what would you say are some, from the people that you just talked to and coach and just run across, what would you say are some of the most common dating patterns that you've heard of from both sexes, or one sex, or whichever?
Do you mean the good ones or the problematic ones?
The problematic ones.
So the
or do we want to talk about good? We can talk about both.
Well, the biggest problem, the most problematic pattern that I see among men and women is actually the same one, but it's born from different reasons. It's not dating multiple people at once before you enter the agreement stage. A lot of women will get laser focused on one guy, and they'll fall really hard for him. Yeah. And they'll put all their eggs in one basket, as I say. But when they do that, they really hurt their chances in two different ways. Number one, they're making their search less efficient. And number two, men sense when a woman does that. And when she does it too quickly, he thinks, wait a minute, why is she committing so fast? Does she not have any other
Yeah.
options? And then he thinks, well, she's easy, so I'm going to back burner her. I call it back burnering.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, you just used one of my terms.
Oh, is that what you
I
did?
use that. Yeah, I use that. Oh, that's
Yeah.
amazing. Okay.
Necessity breeds invention. We have, yeah. So
Yeah.
that's the biggest threat. And so with women, that's the biggest problem. So I'm like, you can't do this. You have to be dating several men, even if the other men you're dating, you're not even as
Yep.
into. That still
Mm-hmm.
helps you. It still really helps you. Now for men, it's the same thing. I say to men, date many women, but for them, it's a different problem. They're afraid to put themselves out there.
Well, yeah.
They want to find, like, they have a white knight problem. A lot of the men that I coach deal with like white knight kind of problems where they're like, well, isn't it, I don't want to be a player. I don't want to be disrespectful.
Yeah.
They may want, but it's like, but it's kind of the same thing. Men have to date many different women to make the process more efficient, number one. And then number two, it's the same thing. They don't want to give off desperate, needy, clingy vibes, right? For a woman,
Yeah.
it's kind of giving the vibe, well, I'm easy to get all my eggs in your basket. So you can make me less of a priority and I'll probably still do that. But for men and women, the dynamic's a little bit different. Women will smell that desperation, that they're your only option, and that's a very unattractive thing. And so they'll just lose attraction for you, if
Yeah.
or they're more likely to, right? Unless the chemistry is just really good and you just get sucked together. But
Yeah.
that's so that's what usually happens. So to me, that's the most problematic dating pattern that I see, and I see it continually. I see it very hard for people to break out of that.
Yeah. I always tell women, like, look, just when I was really dating consistently, when I first moved here to St. Louis, I like to juggle. I literally like to juggle, but I think there's a stereotype that if women juggle men, then they're sleeping with all these men, which is just not true. It wasn't true for me anyway. And it just shouldn't be assumed that just because you're dating like 3 men that you're banging them all. However, I just want more women. I literally just coached this new client of mine the other day, and she just said she wanted what she wanted and she just had to have it. And I don't like hearing women say that, because I've heard that women say that more than once. I just wanted what I wanted. Well, what if you want isn't good for you and doesn't want you? Then what do you do? So what do you say to the women who just gotta have what they want, even if the guy isn't really showing up for them?
So what I would tell them is, that is totally understandable. And that's in your nature to want to hone in on that one guy, right? It is. And so this is a hard thing. But just like it's in a man's nature to try to fix a woman's problems. If a man goes out here trying to fix all the women he meets, he's going to look desperate. He's going to look needy. And so he needs to be in his masculine frame. He needs to be walking in, his purpose, right? And so for a woman, it's the exact same thing. It is in your nature to want to hone in one guy. Okay, that's awesome. However, you have to understand that there are, like, the dating marketplace has very stringent rules that have been set by nature to help humankind survive. And they're not always kind. There are a lot of humans every generation who die without procreating because they failed to measure up. And nature is a cruel mistress. If you don't measure up and you don't replace yourself, you just become obsolete, right? And so what we have to do, and this is why treating dating like a skill is so important. What we have to do is we have to get ahead of that curve. We have to learn the skills so that we can naturally conquer the chaos of, failing our evolutionary sexual mandate, as I call it. And so for women, that means you may have to change some patterns of behavior to become a better, actually, survivor is what it is, evolutionarily speaking, to become a better survivor. Just like if you were stranded in the wilderness, you could say, well, I just really want bread. But if all you have is a slingshot and there are squirrels and all you want is bread, well, you're going to have to slingshot and eat some squirrels first before you can get to bake the bread. You have to survive and you have to figure out your environment. And so the dating marketplace is an environment, and there are rules to it, and techniques and, learning the skills will really help you. They'll help you to avoid the problems. And they'll help you to succeed, increase your odds of success. It is hard because we have to change our patterns of behavior, but it's for a good reason. Yeah, that's why I try to convey, and I find that women are pretty receptive to it, more so than men. It's harder to talk to men about that because it's a pride thing with men. And women don't really have that, I don't feel like, as much. Maybe that's because I'm a man also, so that might be
Yeah.
different.
Well, yeah, then there's that. Well, we have like about a few more minutes here. So before we end our chat today, what are some final thoughts that you want to give to the women who are in need of some good manly insight and good advice when it comes to dating and relationships?
So the number one best thing is to make sure that you're plugging in and listening to men who or women who really know what they're talking about. Um, there are a few really good people that I think know what they're talking about. When it comes to dating, I would say listen to my podcast because I
Right.
talk to women a lot on there. I think that I'm talking about some things that not very many talk to women about, and so that's important. But there are some other people out there. Lately I've been listening to what is her name? There's someone, I don't even remember what her name is. There's a YouTuber.
Okay.
There's a couple different YouTubers who are really good at different things, right? But the most important thing is you want to find somebody who is being honest with you, who's not just filling your ears with fluff, nice things, but
Yep.
who's being honest with you. Like, it takes work. Do the work. Mind your business, get your money, pursue your purpose. You've got to be leveling up mind, body, spirit. Be listening to the person who's going to motivate you to do that, who's going to help you to become the best version of yourself, because that's
Yep.
really what it takes. And
Mhm.
so like your YouTube channel, to be really honest, I would direct women to listen to your YouTube
Oh,
channel more
okay.
than
Thank you.
most, because you have a lot of knowledge about this and you're helping women to succeed. But it's hard to say exactly who women should listen to for me right now, because I'm still
Yeah.
trying to figure that out myself. I'm
Yep.
on the hunt for good mentor figures for women. Um,
Yeah.
Find a woman that you admire and read her biography is the best
Hmm.
advice. Like, yeah, I read Tina Fey's biography, and
I love her.
she is a very, very incredible woman who is a very wise and very successful. And
Yeah.
I learned a lot about women reading her book.
That's funny. That's good. She's awesome. Okay.
Mhm.
So we need to know how we can connect with you on social media, from the podcast, and if you can tell us anything about this upcoming book.
Yeah, so you can connect with me. The best way to connect with me is on my website, joshuasagafus.com. You can find my social media there, my YouTube channel, my podcasts. I podcast literally every day. And so if you
Wow.
listen, you're definitely going to hear some stuff that probably will help you, or at least get you thinking, so that's a really good thing. Now the book is going to be, I'm not actually releasing or talking about the title or
Okay.
anything yet, but
Hmm.
what it is going to be is it's going to be my entire 9-step practice, every single technique, like everything men and women need to know to go from zero to creating the dating life of their dreams. And actually the book is created so men and women can use it, because it's so important for men and women to understand each other. So in every
Yeah.
chapter, there's going to be a section for men, and then there's a section for women. So it's like, this is what men have to do to accomplish this. But for women, it's a little different. They have to do this. And so, but then also it's designed so men and women can read it and they can help to understand each other better, because that's one of the problems is men and women have a lack of respect for each other, first of all,
Yeah.
and then they have a lack of understanding and they're ignorant, right? We have so many men hating women hating men. It is
Yeah.
so terrible. I hate to see it.
Hmm.
Anytime someone is negative toward the other gender just because of their gender, I think you're already losing, because there's so many good things. I want to see men and women appreciating each other, respecting each other, right? Appreciating their differences and working together, because that's how we achieve balance and that's how we survive. Because that's
Yeah.
all reproduction and attraction, all of it
Right.
is a survival mechanism. We have to work together to survive.
Nice. Well, thank you so much. I'm so happy I get to finally interview you. I feel like you've always been interviewing me over these last couple of times that we've conversed. And I just want to say thank you so much. You're doing so much goodness out here for the universe. You're helping us, women and men, just get it together and get our minds right. So for those of you watching, feel free to follow him everywhere. And we all look forward to that upcoming book. Of course, I am B. Wiley here, and I'll talk to you later.